محمد رضوان, founder of Cairo Design Marathon, Cairo Zayathan, وراد ستوديو. I'm honored ان انا النهارده moderator معاكم والhost بتاع the talk about designing for social impact. We have with us on the stage Ahmed Mansour, architect with a master's degree in conservation of monuments and historical sites. Currently, Ahmed is a Heritage Industries Coordinator at Arthelena Heritage Design Thinking School, a program that aims to use heritage at Al Khalifa as a creative and economic resource for teenagers and young designers and craft persons. Ahmed is also founder of Mansour for Architecture and Conservation since 2018. Please welcome Ahmed Mansour. Also with us is Ahmed Safan, award-winning architect, architectural designer focused on community contextual architecture. He designed the War El Azba Cultural Center in 2018, for which he received global recognition, publication, and awards. Most recently, Ahmed has finished the participation in Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism. Please join me in welcoming Ahmed Safan. And finally, Mohammed Abdessamad, a social entrepreneur who is trying to promote the concept of responsible, proactive capitalism. He acquired his bachelor degree and master's degree in business in Belgium. In 2011, he started Shajara, a multidisciplinary design studio that employs design thinking and green architecture techniques to integrate vegetation into human life in order to mitigate climate change and build sustainable communities. And in 2015, he founded Nutrients Recycling, a biotech startup that employs living organisms to treat wastewater while producing energy and protein-rich biomass. Please join me in welcoming Mohammed Abdessamad. Our talk today is going to be about designing for social impact. All three entrepreneurs on stage, whom I'm honored to. Why are we changing the presentation? Go back to the presentation, please. All right. So basically, I'm honored to host all three entrepreneurs. They're all pioneers in their own rights in social impact and pioneering in the area of community-based design. And our talk will be basically starting with a presentation for each one of the members of the panelists of the panel. Will explain what they're doing, and then we're going to have a small discussion panel, and finally end with a Q&A if any of the audience wants to ask any questions. So we're ready to start with the presentation. Just technical problems, 1 minute. There we go. Sorry about that. So we're going to start with Ahmed Mansour from Mugawra Built Environment Collective. He's going to talk to us about Mugawra and their projects in Khalifa. Please proceed. All right.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk today about Mugawra and the Arthelena Initiative. This initiative is basically located in Al Khalifa district, which is in historic Cairo World Heritage Property. The Arthelena is an initiative that is run by two entities, Mugawra as a professional architecture office and the Built Environment Collective as an NGO. This initiative started in 2012, and the whole idea was to create a participatory design for the World Heritage Property and how we can use this heritage as a vehicle for development and a vehicle for even urban regeneration for the area. So, as I said, the heritage as a drive for development, that was the main motto of the Arthelena Initiative. And this can be through linking different projects and integrating these projects in order to produce something that is more collective and more understanding to the World Heritage Property, as well as inviting as much as possible participants, so stakeholders, different stakeholders, not only governmental stakeholders, but also local residents and different entrepreneurs and kind of professionals, in order to create a project that would be more creative, more inclusive, and address the needs of this area in historic Cairo. The three main lines is conservation of monuments, education through heritage, and urban projects and industries, heritage industries, which impact the socioeconomic dimension of El Khalifa as a World Heritage Property. The three main areas of where the projects are concentrated are El Khalifa area, El Hattaba, and Liman Shafi. These are three different, really, even in the morphology of the urban fabric of these areas, these are very different. And the community that lives in each of these areas is also different and diverse. Just a very quick clip on the activities of Magaura. As I said, it started in 2012, and mainly the projects were conservation and rehabilitation. So we have 5 different monuments and 2 heritage buildings. The idea is not only for the conservation of these monuments, but also the adaptive reuse and how to connect these buildings to the needs assessment and what the people really need to work on. Another one is the heritage-based education. And we have here a different kind of approach to heritage, and it is the summer camp, the school for design thinking, also the women activities, and the tangible and intangible industries for the area of El Khalifa. The third dimension, as I said, was the urban projects and the socioeconomic impact of these urban projects on the inhabitants of El Khalifa. And from this we have the street arts, we have the different heritage industries like crafts and tourism, storytelling, all these as vehicle and as integral part of the development and the management of this area in historic Cairo. This is also the park of El Khalifa. This was a participatory project. I will talk about it a little bit later. So all these projects basically is building on cross-referencing and cross projects that have been added up since 2012, and how these projects basically impact the inhabitants in this area. Okay, so I talked about the 5 buildings that have been the monuments, but the main issue here was the adaptive reuse. And I think if anybody here is interested or knows a little bit about the heritage process here, usually for a very long time, monuments were restored and basically used just for tourism. So people would come and visit. But with the initiative, with the Arthelena Initiative, the idea was actually to link these monuments to the needs of the people. So how they can use this and how can they feel that these buildings are part of their heritage and part of their daily use in the area. The two buildings that I was talking about, which are not listed as monuments, but rather heritage buildings, they were used by the people later on. So they are used by the initiative itself for the summer camp, for the activities. But at the same time, these buildings are used by the inhabitants for birthdays, engagement parties, whatever they need. And also for the storytelling school that we have. So this was also something that we worked on. I'll talk very quickly about two projects, which is the conservation and management plan of El Khalifa. As you can see, El Khalifa is an area of 24 Fadan. Approximately 1,500 people live in this area. And here the idea was to create a conservation plan for this area and to see what we can do specifically with the vacant and the demolished buildings in the Khalifa district. When we talk about using dilapidated or destroyed plots, the main issue here is how to link these new uses to the needs assessment. Since 2012, Arthelena is making all the needs assessment. I think this is something that also we can talk about later, that people will tell you what you want to hear if you ask, what do you need? And I think if you ask it very directly, you might find actually they respond very, let's put it that way, not objective, what I need now, but I think that the need assessments should be always a continuous process. It's not specific for one project. So Arthelena, when we try to work on 5 or 6 different projects, we usually create the idea of the needs assessment from the beginning, and we build on what we have done since 2012. And this is a process that is very interesting, and I think this would be something that maybe we can talk about later. One of the projects that were really interesting also for the Arthelena initiative was the Heritage Park. It's called El Khalifa Heritage and Environmental Park. The idea here is the groundwater. There is a project for lowering the groundwater in El Khalifa. So to reuse this groundwater in the irrigation of the park itself, but at the same time to use the park as a catalyst for, first of all, the needs of the people. What do they need in a park? And second, for the income and the revenues that this park can actually create for the area itself. This is my last slide. I will talk here about another project, which is the heritage industries. And in my opinion, and actually the project that we thought about, Arthelena Design, Heritage Design Thinking School, we were thinking more of how can we use the heritage as an inspiration for the products and the whether it's tangible or intangible products of El Khalifa district. How can we link the people living there? Because as I said, as I mentioned earlier, in 2012 the summer school started, and the summer school was for the target group of 6 to 11. After 6 years, these kids became teenagers, and we want them still to be involved in our products and in our project. And that was the idea of the school at the beginning. So the design thinking school involves again the local community, the kids in the area, in order to think more of the heritage and to get inspired and produce very small products that can be sold, and the revenue, part of the revenue, become part of the income of these students also. I think I've finished, so please.
Thank you, Ahmed. Of course, it's challenging to sum up all what has been going in Gaura and Khalifa in 5 to 10 minutes. So thank you, Ahmed, for doing that and giving the people, our audience, an idea about what you guys were doing. Now we're going to move to Ahmed Safan, and he's going to talk to us about his project and the Wara Al-Azma.
Yeah, thank you. Hey guys, first of all, thank you all for coming. Like, I really know, like, it's very cold these days, so thank you for coming and listening. It's a very nice environment. I really appreciate the moment. Before I start this, I just want to say that I really appreciate what Ahmed Mansour was saying, because as a young architect, I was working back in the day with Omar Kishk, and we had the Khalifa Heritage Park. And I remember receiving the PDFs, like the research that they've done beforehand, before we started the design process. And like, these guys are doing like crazy rigorous like studies. Like I really appreciate everything that they're doing there. And I also want to say, like, I think on a personal scale, I think they are one of the most people who are actually working on the field, like for a very long time, working on developing actually an area. And so I really wanted to appreciate that, Mansour. Thank you very much. And yeah, so today I have a very long story to tell you, but like I'm gonna try to make it in 10 minutes. This story is about, 7 minutes, okay? So today I'm going to talk about the Wara Al-Azma. I'm sure you've heard about it somehow. It's a culture center in the middle of Azbat Khairallah. It's in the center of, very close to Ma'adi, and it's one of the largest informal settlements in Cairo. Today I don't want to talk about the design as much as I want to talk about the notion of the Wara Al-Azma being a growing sprout, like a growing urban sprout. And I want to take you through the story like really quickly. Like when I started this project, there were like two forces at hand. The first force is having this kind of visionary client, you would say, or visionary owner who had all the flexibility and no limitations in which to give an architect like me a chance to kind of design something. So this was something very important. And the other thing is the other force, which is what we do as architects when we start designing projects, is this kind of notion of really trying to understand the context and really trying to understand the demographic and see what we can take from that as an inspiration to kind of guide us through the design process or the keyword process or stuff like that. So it was this kind of balance between trying to cater to the tenant's need or the owner's need, and also trying to make something that would work contextually and also demographically with the people that are living there. Because it's, it's one of a kind project, I think. I was thinking that before I started. So the whole idea is to kind of, behind the Wara Al-Azma was kind of like conceptualizing, is trying to create this kind of living agent, or a building that kind of like grows in a way, or is a seed that you can just drop, and like many modules can come over time, because areas like these, they don't get that much exposure in projects like these. So I was like, my main aim was kind of like, hey guys, this is the area that we can work on, instead of just like demolishing. Maybe we can do something with it. So the whole idea was just trying to employ local resources, trying to see what kind of resources are there, what can I work with. Also, I had this kind of, you know, when you're designing something and you're an architect, you always have this kind of, oh, maybe I could add this kind of aesthetic thing, or maybe this kind of, I don't know, like this kind of design line that kind of gives the design an edge or something. So this also, like, this kind of also parallel forces between the two is trying to also, like what Mansour was saying, just ask people what they need and they will tell you. But also there's kind of this kind of architects desire, not desire, but also like also doing something that is kind of visually not impressive, but it can strike an impact and it can make you say like, oh, maybe I should invest in this area, or maybe I should do something similar or something like that. In this, it was kind of a process of trusting the design process and working with all of that. Also, I had a very, very limited budget, so like the benefits of also having a limited budget, is like how can you work around it, kind of like navigate, was very limited, by the way. So what happened is actually after the building was finished, an unanticipated storm. Like I anticipated it, but in a way, but like I didn't anticipate it would be that big, like to have this kind of ripple effect. And what happened is that this building kind of, and this is something else I want to talk about, is that this building kind of became kind of a visual icon for some things, and like many people started to talk about, and like many people like thought it was something cheerful, something that people can start working with and stuff like that. And for me, that was really like amazing, because this actually got to bring us more investment in the area, and like many donors like started, okay, maybe we can do the street, or maybe we can do the area and stuff like that. And this is exactly what happened, is that many donors came afterwards, and there was like, okay, why not do the street, or maybe why not do the urban context around the building? And this is exactly what happened. So this actually is another project that I worked on, which is purely participatory design workshop on like renovating the street of the building itself. And this kind of was like a developing relationship even before doing the building, which because like we kind of created this kind of community in the street, in the Or al-Azba. So actually everything was actually made by the people in some sense. So this led to kind of do like this balance between what people need, and also kind of tweaking what can we do with the design to kind of make it impressive and really stand out. So many people also, when they see the pictures, it's like, oh, let's take the other street and the other street and the other street, and it keeps growing. You know what I mean? These are very not tiny snippets. I have a series on Instagram, it's called Moments in Time. Anyway, it's kind of an exploration also on some of the things as they are. Like, so this is actually some of the scenes when we start working on the site. These are one of the workshops that were happening there. Also employing all the people from the neighborhood, so it kind of starts to create this kind of dialogue that we are all doing something, it's all together and stuff like that, but also trying to tweak also the design input, like from behind, like no one would notice, you know what I mean? So these are just some snippets. This is a very long video, so we're not gonna see it all, obviously. But yeah, at the end, this kind of was the result. Like this, for example, this street, it had a lot of problems concerned with like drug use, and it was a very dark place. So how kind of, the challenge was kind of creating something that could actually occupy this place to kind of make it more like, you know, bright, and like kids are playing here. I don't think people would come and use drugs anymore. Like maybe that's not the case, but it's an exploration. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing, and recently I have been invited to actually go and do a physical installation in the Seoul Biennale of Architecture and Urbanism, and it was actually about this building. And one of the pictures that I kind of exhibited there is this very I don't know, simple render of how like small sprouts can maybe if we can like do one by one, it could somehow lead to a full area that is full of opportunities for quality of life, or opportunities for a very nice neighborhood which people actually deserve, because this is Egypt, guys. Like, this is really Egypt. So yeah, that's about it. So thanks.
Building as a catalyst for change, and we're going to discuss that also further. Now we move to Mohammed Abdel the founder of Shajara, and he's going to talk to us about his foundation.
Thank you, Ridwan. Also love to thank everybody. So today I'm here to talk about Shajara at school. Shajara, of course, it means a tree in Arabic. And what motivated this project is first is climate change. As we all know, it's becoming a significant challenge now, and we can all witness its consequences. But at the same time, specifically in Egypt and in the developing world, we have some also significant social issues. And what we are focusing on here is educational ones. So Shajara decided to come up with Shajara at school. In its early form, the project aimed to install indigenous plant species in Egyptian public schools. So indigenous plant species, they are good for boosting biodiversity. They also consume very low water. But we were actually faced by a challenge. There wasn't much space to plant trees. But what we noticed is that there are actually significant amount of relatively almost dead space on the rooftops. So we said, why don't we actually utilize it into something? And at this time we said, okay, let's build a rooftop farm. And the idea behind the rooftop farm is that it will incentivize the school administration to take care of it. We installed the first project. We did the first one in 2013. And this was actually quite a large rooftop at the time. The vegetation area on the rooftop was 116 square meters. The school, by the way, was in Kalibaya in Qanatir. And we actually were very astonished by what happened in the school. Not only that this project is still actually taking care of itself until now without any intervention from Shajara, but also the school did some initiatives by themselves. They started an upcycling program where they actually started to use plastic bottles and turn into beautiful hanging planters and like some sort of like a green wall. They also, this photo was these two birds. It was actually like almost like a dump site. So they cleared it and they turned it into very beautiful and lush green area. So Shajara decided actually to install the second rooftop for the school, and it was also planned to be for gardening and these sort of activities. But at one time when we were visiting the school, we saw this. What happened is that the school administration, the teacher, they took the benches and they started having a classroom outside. And when we asked the school, like, wow, this is actually such a good idea, what is the motivation? And they started to bring up the problem of overcrowded classrooms. And Shajara had like an aha moment and said, okay, maybe we can actually design the project so it can also tackle this issue. So we came up with a green roof classroom. It can be a green attempt at the problem of overcrowded classrooms. So in this time, we are going to contribute to a social issue. We will improve the educational environment. And at the same time, we will also be tackling environmental ones. The first green roof classroom, the first purposely designed green roof classroom was inaugurated in 2019. It was built on a 100 square meter rooftop, and it's also co-designed with IKEA. The classroom actually provides two space for activities, so you can do the gardening activities and other extracurricular activities. There were also a place for a classroom where actually students can sit under a pergola and they can take a classroom, just conventional subjects. So this project actually, it has several positive impacts. The first one is environmental. As we all know, vegetation and green roofs, they are very good. They can offset climate change, reduce air pollution. They can also, with something very significant, boost biodiversity. In most of our rooftops, you will always see birds, butterflies, and several other forms of life. It's also good for the educational environment. So this outdoor space used by students, it's very good, specifically now in COVID times, but it can also boost creativity. It reduces aggressive behavior, and so on. Lastly, the project is also very beneficial for the structure of the building, because if any of you have been in public schools, most of them, they're not like they're not very properly waterproof. And Shagara's green roof system is actually installed proper waterproofing, and we some sort of like prepared the structure, the rooftop. This is actually a video of the inauguration project of our first green roof classroom. Not sure if we have, it's like a 3-minute video, if we have time to watch it or no. But this is actually an ongoing project. It's not only one. Now we have four schools where we implemented this. And we just actually inaugurated one in December with AstraZeneca. Also, one unique thing about our project is that we are actually trying to mobilize the private sector to do climate action. So far we have partnered with Arthelena of Sweden, IKEA, and lastly AstraZeneca. And we are also trying to develop like some sort of like a shared value strategy where we actually try to come up with an activity related to the company or the donor's activity, and implement it. For example, IKEA, they did the carpentry and they provided the furniture. In AstraZeneca's case, it was focused on how it's COVID friendly and provide a healthy environment. This is a video. Actually has some audio, if we can listen to it. No? Okay. Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's an ongoing project. We're planning to implement this project in 3 schools this year, hopefully, inshallah. And before I end with Shagara School, we are actually launching a new project. It's called Purposeful Landscape. So the idea behind this is that we want to provide a landscape that will offer a green urban space, but it will also offer green jobs opportunity. So I will invite you to follow Shagara on social media to know more about the project. We didn't announce it yet. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to go ahead with our discussion panel with the 3 pioneers, and I'm going to ask this question for all 3 of you, and then we're going to go ahead with the conversation as it goes. In your view and from your experience, because we all talked about each one of you is handling the social impact in a different manner and on different scales. You have the building, and then you have the urban development, and then you have the very solution-based approach of Shagara. What is the importance of the community participatory process in your design process? So we can start from Mansour, and then we go.
Basically, it's very important. Yeah, I will be a little bit the devil's advocate here, and I don't think that currently the political situation in Egypt actually encourages the idea of participatory in the manner that it should be. So the NGOs or the individuals can really create a participatory project, but on an institutional level, it's very difficult. Basically, it's very important, this participatory, because this meets the needs and the idea of usage of the users themselves. But at the same time, I don't think it's very clear currently, let's put it that way. There is no legal framework for it. And this is the main issue, I think, here. Because at the end of the road, especially when we talk about historic area or an urban setting, the needs assessment is an essential part of any project that you're implementing in this area. But at the same time, we see on a practical level, if you don't involve all the stakeholders from the beginning, it's not only the community, but the rest of the stakeholders also, then you're doomed to failure, I have to say. So that would be my
very optimistic note. Ending on a very optimistic note. Okay, Safin.
I'm gonna be the optimist if he's the devil. I don't know, I just wanna say about this kind of balance between, first of all, for me, it's very important to kind of go there by yourself, firstly, before you start everything, and try to really involve yourself to what's happening there. Like to me, that usually works. Like really throwing yourself in the community that is happening there and understanding what's their fears, what's their aspirations, what's their, but also understanding it on a very humanistic scale, beyond design, beyond stuff like that. And actually what happens when you do the needs assessment is like you have this kind of set of needs that you need to fulfill, but also this kind of balance of trying to also incur, like, I would say, designed things that are not, it's like, let's think together about something outside the box, you know what I mean? It's like when you sit with the community, it's like, yeah, I want, for example, a water cooler. So, okay, so what is like trying to understand what is a water cooler and why is it important and why we need to have it here and why it needs to be in another place, but also kind of like brainstorming with the community. It's very important, but also on a very humanistic scale, because I think we're all very fragile in some ways. So I think it's very important to kind of establish this kind of communication first before even doing one line of design. So that's for me what works.
Actually, if you really want to build something that lasts and achieve a real impact, you have to involve the community that you are designing for. Let me actually take the story of Shagara and how it started. So in the beginning, we assumed that you need a rooftop farm to incentivize the people, but we actually give the freedom to our users to do what they want, and we don't actually control anything. And what we found actually that, for example, in the rooftop farm approach, they replaced it with satellites, and we found that to motivate them actually to take care of the thing, it's not the financial aid or the financial benefit, it's actually the recognition. So currently, the current phase of Shagara at school that you see it now is all built based actually on the participatory approach. So they replaced the plants. They also started taking the desks, and doing it into a classroom. So I think it's really important that you not only actually force your view of what you think is important for the beneficiaries, but actually let them also experiment and to learn also from them.
Thank you, Mohammed. I want to follow up with Mansour because you said because of the current circumstances in Egypt, it becomes very hard to do a really, it's not basically the approach or the norm, but given that, still Mugawra is succeeding and they are considered by many a success, and they have coupled with a lot of the governmental bodies and the private sector and have made a headway in Al Khalifa. So how did you overcome this? How did Mugawra overcome the current situation? How do you see a way forward for it?
Okay, so I will just say a little, very small comment before I proceed, because participatory design is about empowerment. So that's why I'm saying that politically in the situation now it's not very inviting for this empowerment for the local community. However, with Mugawra, the idea was that we have the community definitely, but how to balance with the other stakeholders, because we're talking about, this is more of an urban setting, so you have a lot of things that is going on. It's not only a very specific place or something. Now, you have the governorate, you have the Ministry of Antiquities, you have the local community, the Ministry of Solidarity, the Ministry of Interior. You have a lot of stakeholders. And on an urban level, usually this is very difficult to intervene. And that's why we say it's a participatory approach. The Mugawra that is using this approach as the main vehicle. But it's, when we talk about design, I think we have here some issues because of the legal framework that doesn't allow this. So at the end of the road, you have to find a way to address the needs of the people, and at the same time to take into account the other stakeholders that are involved in this proceeding.
Okay, one last question before we end the discussion panel, and then we move to the Q&A. And that's basically, there were two questions, but we're now going to make them in one. And we're going to start from Muhammad. What is the social impact that you have felt, that you achieved, and what do you hope to achieve ultimately from your work with Shagar?
Well, just like the student feedback and teachers that they love their schools more. Like, for example, this last school that we implemented the project in with AstraZeneca, it was a secondary school. Nobody was basically going to the school. Now they are actually going. Actually speaking also of the first school, there was a psychologist there, something quite strange, but apparently outside Cairo, like schools are better equipped with personnel. And she was actually preparing her master's about the impact of this project, specifically on the psychology of the students. So what she was doing is that it was a mixed school, boys and girls, and boys who have some aggression problems, she will actually take them and they will start working in the gardening and take classes outside. And by the end of the year, she would notice a drop in their issues, problems they have. And of course, education is very important, and also like seeing beauty around you is very important. If you look now, we have like the fourth industrial revolution, all this innovation going on. So if you really want to, move the people up the social ladder, you have to provide them with good education. And I think this is the main actually impact that Shagar is doing.
Thank you. Let's hope that it succeeds in that. Safin, same question.
I mean, like so far, like the social impact that the building had. I mean, we can see it tangibly when I did this project, like in the street. But also, I think it's still a really wide exploration. Like, it's like I want to say this is an invitation for like a synergetic kind of energy. Like we can do, like, for example, the building when I did it. It was the product of a lot of really interesting and insightful people collaborating together. So I think this is also something very important. It's like let's collaborate, like let's work together, because like it's like I think this is where design is going, like that can really do change. It's like I have something to offer. Like I think the phase of this architect is kind of like declining. It's just like it's all about getting all these forces together and like trying to think together on what we can actually do. So I'm actually looking forward to that. It's like because of the platform that the building allowed, this kind of allowed a lot of donors and a lot of investors and a lot of creatives who want to do different things. So it's like I really wanted to keep sprouting in this direction, because again, it's like what we create as a community also, beyond what communities that we work with, but also as a community of designers, or as a community of creatives that are doing different things that can actually have an impact in the future.
Thank you. Mansour.
I think what is really interested in what Mikaura and the Arthelena Initiative is doing is the students, the younger generation and the women of Khalifa. That is really an impact that I think is worth all the work and effort that has been done through the past years. Now also it's the idea of the quality of life and the socioeconomic impact of these projects that really is something I think that is worth mentioning, specifically after almost 10 years of working in the area. So I think these are the main success of Mgaura, and I was only involved in specific projects also, I have to be clear about that. So I think this is what I would say a success for Arthelena Initiative.
Thank you very much, Mansour. Now we open the floor for the Q&A. If any of the audience wants to ask any questions to the panelists, or want to open further areas of discussion, they can feel free to. Any questions? Okay, I think this concludes the discussion panel. And I thank the panelists. Can we give a round of applause to our panelists? Please do follow their pages. We have Shagara, Safan, and Magaura, Arthelena on Instagram. They all have presence, and stay posted on what amazing work they're doing. Thank you, guys. It's been an honor.